going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome into today's video, and for our latest New Orleans Saints news and rumors, I want to discuss my perfect offseason plan, and this is my 5-step plan to get the New Orleans Saints back in the postseason and competing for the Lombardi Trophy once again. It's really crazy. 14 years ago today, the New Orleans Saints, sorry Seeps, beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship, and I'm feeling a little nostalgic. I want to get back to the big game. So I need your help, though. Subscribe for New Orleans Saints videos every single day. We're at 25,616. That didn't happen on accident. We give you guys live coverage during the regular season, live coverage in the offseason, and videos almost every single day. So lock us in, hit that sub button, and turn on your notifications. That way you never miss a thing. All right, step one of my perfect offseason hire, it's going to be nail the OC search. I think that I really have a good list of offensive coordinators that the Saints could go and call. Joe Brady, he did some good things with the Buffalo Bills, has, some ties to Louisiana, worked in LSU with Joe Burrow. G.J. Kinney, I've talked about him to a great extent on this channel. I absolutely love him. If you are unfamiliar with him, give him a Google or check out any of our other offensive coordinator videos because he is awesome and an offensive guru. Zach Robinson has been tied to the New Orleans Saints, has interviewed with the team, as well as Girouard, Johnson, and Clint Kubiak. I think that any of these guys would be a good hire, and these are my top picks. But here's how I would fix the offense for whoever that offensive coordinator is. The OC needs to implement more pre-snap motion, and they need to have a more modern-day creative offense. I want to see some guys moving around. I want to see some confusing packages. I want to see the running back get used in motion. Throw Taysom Hill in motion. Utilize the creativity of a young offensive mind. And you need better protection and run blocking. A lot of criticism on Jamal Williams for not being able to be as successful in the run game as he was in Detroit, but I'm going to keep it real. A lot of that has to do with the run blocking, as well as Alvin Kamara, who had kind of a down year as well. And here's another thing. Don't be afraid to air it out. When Derek Carr hit Rashid Shaheed deep, holy cow, was I a little girl screaming because, goodness gracious, it was so much fun, and it felt like more times than not it worked out. Also, you have A.T. Perry. Throw him the ball. Okay, so you can also stop with the stupid penalties. They just continuously shoot the Saints in the foot, and you need to play to your weapon strengths. Start using Alvin Kamara in motion. Give him the ball in open space. Utilize Taysom Hill to his strengths. Utilize Jamal Williams. Utilize Rashid and Chris Olave and all of these players to their strengths. And for number 2, I talked about the offense, but I think the defense also needs to get a little bit more explosive. So at the linebacker position, I have a handful of targets in the draft and in free agency that could address that. So in terms of free agent targets, I like Frankie Louvu, Patrick Queen, and Blake Cashman. Those are just 3 guys to keep an eye on. Of course, there's plenty of other names that we're going to talk about throughout the offseason, but these are 3 guys right now that I think could be a pretty good could have a good impact, on the Saints defense. And then if you didn't want to go free agency, you wanted to go the draft route, you got Jeremiah Trotter out of Clemson, you got Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M, which is Dennis Allen's alma mater, Woo Pig for the record. Junior Colson, he's a linebacker out of the national champion Michigan Wolverines. Cedric Gray rocking that Carolina blue with the Tar Heels. Jalen Ford out in Austin, and Peyton Wilson over with the Wolfpack at NC State. I think these are all solid linebacker prospects as well. But I want you to be the GM for me. Would you rather build your team in the draft or free agency? I saw a guy in the live chat, Kermit the Frog, saying, I like building in free agency for certain positions. But I want to let you guys be the GM. Just give me a D or an FA in the chat below. And we are going to have more off-season steps that the Saints have to utilize in order to get back to the postseason. But before we get to that, got to give a big-time shout-out to Prize Picks. And if you guys don't know what Prize Picks is, if you've been living under a rock for goodness sakes, it's the best daily fantasy sports app in North America. It's a free download, and this note is awesome. You can use code CLNS for a $100 deposit match, meaning you put down $100, they put in $100. You got $200 to make your projections with. You also can play the more or less game. It is a total blast. It's so much fun, and I've actually won some real money. you can win up to 25 times your money. I got my little brother hooked on Prize Picks, and he's a college student. I'll tell you what, he's having a lot of fun getting to go out to the bars with his winnings on Prize Picks. And if you want to increase your winnings, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Plug in that promo code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Shout out to Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, next one's pretty obvious. I talked about it a little bit ago. You got to build up the offensive line. I mean, this O-line was underperforming everywhere. Eric McCoy, best lineman on your best PFF graded guy on the line. Ryan Ramczyk, he's great, but he's starting to have some injury issues. He's getting a little bit older. Things are starting to kind of slow down for him a little bit. So I think that you got to build up that offensive line. And if you want to go and draft some O-linemen, here are three guys that I like: Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, and Graham Barton. There's, of course, the offensive lineman out of Oregon State. You also got some guys out of OU. You have a lot of offensive linemen, draft targets you could get. But if you like building in free agency like Kermit the Frog, what about a Jonah Williams or a Robert Hunt to shore up that offensive guard position? He's a versatile guy. What about Trent Brown? He's another player that could come in and help out the offensive line to give it some better production, if you ask me. And here's the thing. I believe that you cannot miss on back-to-back offensive linemen in round one. If you're going to go and get a guy in the trenches in round one at pick number 14, it cannot be another repeat of Trevor Penning. It has to be a surefire pick. It has to be a guy that's not a project. It has to be a guy who can play right away. Trevor Penning, he's approaching that bust status. In 2023, he only had 417 snaps. It's kind of his rookie campaign because last year he was dealing with an injury, and the production was bad, guys. He got benched, never got put back in. He wasn't even in on a lot of the jumbo packages, which is just not good news. So Trevor Penning is approaching bust status. I think that the Saints got to get a offensive tackle to help him out. Maybe they move him over to guard to try and salvage that draft pick or something, but I don't know. What do you guys think about Trevor Penning? Is he a bust, or is it too early to tell? Just give me a B for bust or E for it's too early. I want to see him play a little bit more. I think either answer is totally fair, so I want you guys to be honest with me and let me know. All right, cop out. Sorry, we just got to talk about it. The cap gymnastics, we got to do it. Kai Harley, I hope you ate your Wheaties because you got some work to do, my friend. Once again, the New Orleans Saints find themselves in cap hell. We've been here before. We've been there, done that. We've done this 1,000 times, it feels like. And per over the cap, the Saints are roughly $83.7 million over the cap. So Kai Harley, like I said, it's time to work your magic. So here's 8 guys that could get some restructures and restructure their contracts to give you some cap savings. Cameron Jordan, you could save about just under $9.5 million. Demario Davis, save $8 million. Eric McCoy, save just under $7 million. Carl Granderson, who signed an extension early in the season, you could get him to save $7.2 million. Cesar Ruiz, who signed an extension last offseason, right before the regular season started, actually, $6.6 million in saving. Taysom Hill, the flex position, the Storm and Mormon, I like to call him, $6.6 million. And Alvin Kamara could even save you $8 million, which, if you add all that up, rounds out to just about $52.5 million in savings. And now, obviously, there's going to be more moves that need to happen, but this is a great place to start. And I think that these are 7 guys that you should definitely restructure. Now, lastly, I'm gonna just preface this. Hold on. You see the asterisk right here. You see it. I don't want the Saints to trade Marshon Lattimore. I don't want them to have to replace him. But there's an asterisk because just in case they do, you have to find a replacement. Now, why could Marshon Lattimore be traded? Well, he got a contract restructure a few weeks ago, and Nick Underhill, he went live on NOF Network, and this is what he said whenever that deal happened. He said he was offering some clarity on the deal. He said it's an option bonus, not a signing bonus, and it's set to hit a week before the 2024 season starts. The only reason to do this is to leave the door open to a transaction to where you can move on from somebody. Based on some of the stuff that I've heard way behind the scenes, not surprised this is something that everybody's kind of open to at this point. So we'll see if it actually happens, but the table has been set for a trade to be made. Now, I do think that the Saints are going to try to keep Marshon Lattimore, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do move on. I think that Marshon Lattimore is a great player, and obviously he's one of the best cornerbacks the Saints have ever had in franchise history. Like, I feel like that's something fair to say. And Catherine Terrell did add some context on this, and I'm going to read you guys what she had to say. Because I think that if you were to trade Marshon Lattimore, it's not necessarily the best idea. So in terms of adding to some context, just a random note about Marshon Lattimore's option bonus in his reworked contract. There is a, quote, de-escalator that can reduce his salary up to $250,000 based on how much of the offseason workout program he attends. So that is something worth noting, and that is the latest on Marshon Lattimore. But hear me out. I want to start right here. This is not my top choice, but it's certainly an intriguing option. Now let's move up to step one. Saints could go re-sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I know a lot of y'all hate him. I know a lot of y'all have some bad blood and some bad memories of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but here's the thing. C.D. Deuce is a great football player. He brought a lot of energy to this football team, and Alontae Taylor, here's my thing. He failed at the nickel cornerback spot, so I think that you could go and get him to fill that void. Plus, Taylor was much more successful on the outside. Again, not my top choice, but it's an intriguing option, and it's one that I think New Orleans should at least explore. But if you're not going to do that, here's some draft and free agent targets that you could use to replace Lattimore. Cooper DeJean, I've seen announcers pronounce it both ways. The cornerback out of Iowa would be really cool to have. Terrion Arnold, I think that he's the better of the two cornerbacks out of Alabama. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson. Steven Nelson, he's with the Houston Texans, and Michael Davis with the Chargers are all options that you could go and get to replace Marshon Lattimore. Again, I think the best option is keep him, but if you had to go and replace him, here's a handful of guys. So if you made it to the end of the video, I just want to say thank you guys, and I want you guys to be a part of our real one raw call. Just give me a real one in the comment section, and as always, Saints fans, y'all stay golden. See you next time.